All right. So welcome everybody. Thank you for being here today. Today is April 28th. That's it. No, April
24th.
April 24th. So apparently when you say it's 424, whatever, I had joke's gone, moment over. But we have a lot going on today. Emily's going to start us off by doing our market recap. Darling, what the hell is going on with oil? I don't know what happened. But I woke up on Tuesday, it was negative $37 for the first time ever. Now it's up, it's going down. We have the petrodollar. What do you think?
Where do we start? Bottom line is, and I think, we're starting to see how, each industry is being affected, obviously, by the virus. There's all this oil that, obviously, we drill that's not being, consumed, right? No, nobody's driving, nobody's flying, nobody's doing any of that stuff. So the futures contracts for May were expiring on Tuesday. And because there's no demand for oil, that's what caused that whole fracas on Tuesday. But it's just like everything else that we've been seeing. Certain industries are getting hit hard, and now the oil industry, as energy sector, is going to start to see that, where if they're not drilling oil, then certain companies are going to start to stop production and shut down. And we'll see if the federal government comes in and provides aid for the energy sector. But it's just the same thing that we've been seeing across the board.
It was so interesting. Yes, go ahead.
I have a question.
Sure.
You just raise your hand like you were in class, like we're in third grade. I love it. Go on, Stephanie. What's your question?
Do you then believe that this could potentially result in because we're talking about eco-friendly stuff today, would that promote a push in eco-friendly energies like wind and solar because of this? Because that would be something that would be able to work consistently, like a windmill or a windmill like area would constantly be generating work if we had a situation like this. So I'm just asking your kind of what you speculate from no understanding.
Well, the problem is that the problem with oil is that there's no consumption, right? It's the same thing with businesses and industries that are closed, is because consumers are not out there spending money. So regardless of whatever product it is, when everybody is in the house and not going out to consume anything, whether it's spending money or oil or energy or whatever, it's going to be the same effect. But clean energy has always been something that's been out there, so it's that's not going to end. But in terms of like right now, will that solve the issue? I don't think so. I think there's just no consumption.
I wasn't thinking about solving. I just asked if I meant in sense of like, would this be something that would help propel to make that in the forefront as opposed to oil being the main energy source?
I'm not sure, but oil is such a huge commodity that's used all over that I just, I don't see, that not ever, not being used. But could other resources and other energy resources come into play? Absolutely. But oil is it's just a big commodity that's consumed by a lot of industries.
That's interesting because Anita, are you muted or are you unmuted? Let me think. I'm going to unmute.
Hey, Anita.
Hello, Anita. How are you, honey?
Hey, I'm great. How are you?
Yeah, well, thank you. So one of the reasons why I wanted to talk about oil and have Tim on here is because there are so many other alternatives that we need to educate ourselves on. Better, worse, it doesn't matter. It's just about being effective, being cost effective, and technology is always changing. Now, oil was a huge producer and incredibly influential during the Industrial Revolution. We all know this. That was the thing. Coal powered everything. That was the height of technology back then. Things have obviously changed. We now have cell phones that are, mini computers in our hand all the time. So we are a little bit above, the abacus. But we have people like Anita. You live in Texas, where it's a huge oil industry. You were the one that pointed out to me as well earlier this week when it bottomed out at $37 negative a barrel. And we talked a little bit about the petrol dollar. So it's been a couple days. What have you seen since then, and what are you thinking?
Well, actually, what I've seen since then is with the price of crude oils came back up as was projected. I don't know if you remember what I told you
Yep.
about some of the information that I got from one of our bankers who has a really good friend that's real big in the oil and gas industry. He was saying, hey, it should be up to around $21 a barrel by Wednesday. And this was, what was it, Sunday night or Monday, I believe it was. But nonetheless, the big concern whenever I seen the prices falling, because I mean, it always ebbs and flows. I've lived through so many oil and gas crash cycles. It's not even funny. This was just the worst. But, whenever the US dollar was taken off the gold standard back in the early 70s, after that happened, the US dollar got tied to be basically the petrodollar. So any trading through OPEC across the world, any buying and selling of oil, it has to be done in US dollars. So when they took the US dollar off the gold standard, basically it was backed by nothing. It became a fiat currency. But how do you get a fiat currency to be able to basically hold value? Tie it to a commodity like oil, right? So, I've seen Jacob sent me an article earlier that said, are the markets being manipulated or this, that, and the other. So there had been some talk for quite some time about some foreign markets that are, big oil producing companies wanting to basically flood the market with oil in order to dilute the value of the American dollar, to try to get the petrodollar, where it's not basically tied to US money, to crash the United States dollar. So, of course, whenever I seen this coming down and it finishing out lower than it's ever finished out in history under, expiration of such contracts, that was my biggest concern. My biggest concern was, what's going to happen to the value of US dollars if somebody doesn't stabilize this and stabilize it quick, right? Just, being in the heart of oil land in our country, really what we need to be seeing. And I know people are always cheering whenever gas is cheap, but the trickle down effect across the entire economy is detrimental whenever gas is too cheap, okay? Because that means the price of crude is cheap and it affects so many different industries. So a good balance is like if crude is selling at like $40 a barrel, that's a good balance. Gas is still affordable. The industry's healthy. The industries in which the oil and gas industry feeds stay healthy. There, you guys, there's so many. There's literally hundreds, if not thousands, of different industries that's fueled, not in the sense of the word as in fueling the tank, but their economic stability, their stability as companies and providing jobs for people is basically fueled by the oil and gas industry being healthy. And people just don't even realize what a huge global economic impact it is if that market crashes.
So it's interesting. There's always such a divide, and Tim, I think you'll have more to say with this, I'm sure, about people who are like my parents' age, my grandparents' age. They are all about fossil fuels. They're all about oil and gas. They like trading in it. They like investing in it. And I actually looked at an oil deal last year, I think, in Nebraska, and I'm still getting used to being a single dad. Please forgive me. So they're very, very fond of that. So when I talked about trying to do more sustainable activities and other things that are out there, other technologies are coming along, it's met with resistance. And now I understand such a part of it is because of the petrodollar, and then it's tied to oil. So I understand that. I don't have to like it, but that means I can still make choices in my life and in my business that can be more sustainable and be better for the environment overall. One of the things they're looking at doing, by the way, for the oil and gas is they're looking at storing this surplus in empty pipelines that are already in the ground. Now, I'm not going to voice my opinion on that because that's not necessarily the place or the time, and I try to stay out of such matters, but we have better alternatives. And with that, I'm going to introduce to you my dear friend, Mr. Tim Sperry from Smog Armor Paint. Say hi, Tim. Do I have you
Hi
muted?
guys, how you doing?
So
Jacob, good to be excited to be here.
I'm glad you are here. We've been trying to do this forever. Now we finally get the chance to actually talk. So let me give you guys a bit of a rundown on who Tim is and why he kicks ass. When I was just getting into real estate investing, just got my license, and I met Tim through a friend. And we started trying to do some big commercial deals together. We couldn't make anything actually fit until we both started following our actual desires and our actual goals. Me doing my nonprofit, and I started doing this after having a lovely conversation with Tim on a back porch at my friend's house, saying, this is what I want to do. And he said, go for it. And started giving me all this insight and support. And man, that changed my life, clearly, and it's changing others. He and I went through our breakups around the same time, and I went into his room one day, and he had these little canisters sitting on his floor in his room. I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm making paint. I'm like, how the hell are you making paint? What does that mean? What are you doing? So he starts telling me about what he wants to do in his vision. Guys, this is so cool. So for the next little bit, this is all going to be for Tim. You guys are going to love what he's doing. So this is exciting. Okay, Tim, tell us what you started in real estate as a broker, as a real estate broker.
Yep.
And then you what spawned your transition to going into more of an eco-friendly entrepreneur? What did you do?
So I guess it was because I did well in real estate, but I really wasn't getting the fulfillment that I used to get with showing people, helping people, like not having to sit in a desk and just being out there and seeing really cool places, as you know, and meeting great people like you. Jacob and I met doing real estate when I was in real estate. It was really great. And I just started, actually, what really happened was I ended up investing in and opening and running a restaurant, which, has anyone had a restaurant or worked in a restaurant or family-owned restaurants? Yeah, really, really, really like challenging, like super tough business. Like I've opened a lot of businesses, and this was by far like the most demanding, and it was really, really crazy. So as I was working like 14-hour days, I was like, okay, I need to start another business. And I just thought at that time, I've always been like such an environmentalist and like so upset to see people like pollute and litter and do things like that, that I was like, okay, I want to do something that is going to be good for the environment, because it's easy to really make money doing whatever you want to do. But at the end of the day, if you spend your whole life doing something that you really don't get fulfilled by and you don't really enjoy doing or have any passion doing, it's a really tough thing. So I really wanted to align my passion, what I felt would fulfill me. And it started off as building an exhaust tip for a car that would absorb all of the emissions that came out of the car. And that ended up actually pivoting into a paint, which I found this really cool mineral that you put into paint, and essentially you paint your wall with it. When it dries, it attracts and it absorbs air pollution, like airborne chemicals, CO2. And the lab results show that it reduces up to 95.1% of air pollution in an hour in a room. So it works really, really great. Now, never made paint before, so I had no idea what I was doing. So I had to partner up with a paint chemist. I didn't even know there was such a thing as a paint chemist, and a paint manufacturer in Florida. So my real passion is doing something that is bigger than me and to benefit the people and benefit the environment. Our company vision is essentially innovating products into powerful tools to reduce pollution and carbon dioxide, your carbon footprint. So that's where it started. Now we're launched. We starting to do really, really well with this paint. We make it all in Florida, and it's all sourced from the US. And we have a couple of other products that we're in the process of making now. And all of these products help reduce pollution and help reduce your carbon footprint. And these are all you could buy a gallon of paint at Home Depot, and 51% of that gallon of paint is chemicals. It's a solvent, it's called, which essentially is you're putting on each gallon weighs about 10 pounds. You're putting 5 pounds of chemicals on your walls for every gallon of paint that you paint with. And most people don't know this, but that paint will actually release those chemicals called off-gassing from anywhere from 2 to 4 years after you paint it on your walls. So you could move into a new place for a year or 2 or 3 and be breathing in chemicals. Now, does anyone have chemical sensitivities or have respiratory problems or asthma or anything like that.
Allergies.
Like,
Yeah.
this is super, super impactful and super good for anyone that has these problems. Like I do. If someone paints a place with the chemical-based paint, I literally couldn't live there until that off-gassing disappears in a couple of months. So for some people, it's really, really sensitive, like older people and younger adults. My passion's really all about helping the environment and helping people.
And one thing I've seen you literally come from like little ball jars in your room covered to keep them dark, experimenting. I thought you were like growing some weird form of cannabis or something. And now it's turning into like this incredible company with all these different, I've learned so much about patents from you. I've learned so much about branding from you. And there's a great book that Tim recommended to me. I recommend all of us read. What's the branding book name?
The Story Brand by Donald.
Story Brand, yeah. That is, by the way, it's a great audiobook as well. So if you guys get the chance, you should be reading the storybook. It's fantastic about branding and being consistent through your messaging and who you're trying to reach and things and so on and so forth.
What was the name of the book?
It's called the Story Brand, and the author is Donald Miller. It's really, really great book to help you identify and kind of break down and help put into words maybe your vision and help also to connect with your customers. It's really, really basic, really, really easy to follow, and it helped out a lot, because at first I couldn't even explain what I was doing or what my company was, and it's helped out tremendously. So definitely highly recommend.
Can anybody else relate to that? Not being able to describe what you want to do with your business or your vision? I mean, I think that's kind of pretty much most of us in this room. So,
yeah, I mean, it's easy to know, and then you're like talking to someone, you're like, I don't think this makes any sense because I don't even understand what I'm saying. It's like, yeah.
So part of that is also fantastic. Is that behind you? Is that one of your paints right behind you?
Yeah, we have. So this is our brand. It's called Smog Armor, and it's an eco-friendly, non-toxic paint. There's no chemicals in here, and it actually it's in this eco pouch, which uses 80% less plastic, and it's a house paint for in your home, your office. It's an exterior paint, and it essentially will clean the air in your room or in your home for about 3 to 5 years before it'll saturate, and then you just need to put another coat on. And people ask all the time, it doesn't release it. And the only way it will release it is if it goes over about 400 degrees Fahrenheit, which means your house is on fire. So it's pretty safe to keep inside the house.
There are other problems if your house is on fire.
Yeah. And nowadays, like Jacob knows this in real estate, like the more energy efficient and the more efficient our homes are becoming, we're trapping the AC, we're trapping the heat, but we're trapping all the chemicals from our carpets, from the wood furniture, from any new products that we buy, general stuff that leaks into our home, and we're trapping it all in, and we're literally breathing it all day long. And now that a lot of people are sheltered in place, like me and most of you guys, I'm assuming, we're starting to realize that the air isn't as fresh in our homes. And the EPA actually says that the air in our homes is at least 2 to 5 times more polluted than the air outside. And it could be up to 1,000 times more polluted when you're cleaning and painting. So it's really something, if you have kids or if you have health conditions, you really want to be conscious of that.
It's funny. I know you're saying it very, very politely. I'm going to break it down and say, I've got dogs in my house. And if you've ever had a dog that's had gas, you know your air is polluted. All of you know this. I'm putting in human terms for you. So now you've got a paint that can go ahead and knock off Rover's emissions and you're good to go. So I think that is super awesome. Now, part of the thing I wanted to share, and the reason why I love what I've been able to learn through the power of networking, through the power of like determining what I want my business model to be while working on my nonprofit, is who you start to affiliate with helps you actually get things to grow. As we've both been trying to explore different avenues, we've been able to get each other in touch with other networking opportunities, other people to help us grow our business, but also Tim has helped us make a difference in what we're doing. So for any property that we are going to be remodeling or that my kids take on, we're doing a condo in Oakland Park coming up here soon, it's going to be painted with Smog Armor paint. So that creates a way for us to do cross-advertising, cross-promotion. It's something unique, it's something different, and it's something that millennials are paying attention to more now, and younger kids. So you have these baby boomers who are retiring, moving out of their houses, going into retirement homes or actually mobile home parks. And you have these bigger homes that need to be updated. Well, if you go in there, if you have to do a cosmetic upgrade and you just go in there and you repaint the walls, but this paint is different. This paint removes 250 cars off the road by painting a 15 by 15 square off of it. That makes it sound different, and that's gonna make it stand out to the buyers. And they're gonna wanna come for it, and if you ask for a higher price, it's great. And what if you decided to use these homes and you're marketing to people who have had respiratory issues or battling cancer and they're going through chemo or whatever that's gotta be. Now you're providing a service that is catering to them, that they feel heard, they feel valuable, and it makes them feel safe. So knowing who you're working with and who you're partnering with makes a huge difference. That's what I wanted to say about that. Any comments from anyone? No? Well, in that case. Okay, so Tim, how long ago did you start working on Smog Armor? When was it?
Like about 1.5 years ago when I pivoted into the paint. And we've been developing with our chemist and with the manufacturer. And then most importantly, like any business guys, whatever you get into, if there's some IP, something you can use to stand apart to get any patents, even provisional patents. You can get a provisional patent if you do it yourself for like $200-300, and as cheap as like $600 and up for an actual patent attorney. So really highly recommend going the path of trying to get any intellectual property for whatever you're doing. And that's right now we're on our 3rd provisional patent, and we're going to go towards utility patents when we're done.
So can you put that down into other terms for those of us who have been up since 5 a.m. and I didn't follow that part. Different patents make cooler things.
Yeah, so like specifically with the paint, it has a special unique formula that no one else uses. So we're able to take that to the patent office and say, here's our formula. We write it down on a patent application, submit it in, and they will actually review it to see if anyone else has submitted a patent for that formula or for the process or the method that you use in order to get that formula or to make that actual product. And they will review it for you after the provisional patent stage. And you can actually get a patent that says, okay, no one else can actually make the paint that you make or make the product that you make because you have that patent. So you own the intellectual property. So it increases the valuation of your company as opposed to making like a widget and everyone else makes that same widget that's super popular. You wouldn't be able to tell any of them to stop, but if you have that patent on that widget, no one else could make that widget, or you could do a cease and desist and actually take over their customers and take over their accounts. So it's really important to have intellectual property if you want to develop a lot of value with your business. And an investor as well. Jacob, your case is a little bit different because you have more of a service-based, integrated with some really cool stuff. But anyone that has a product, to getting that patent and having some IP really helps you get investors and really helps create value with your company. Otherwise, you're just like anyone else on the street or remaking a product or drop shipping or reselling a product, which, will fizzle out at some point.
Tim, what time do you wake up in the morning?
About like 4 o'clock, maybe 4:30.
Mm-hmm. And what time do you work until?
Like 8 or 9 p.m.
Mm-hmm. And at what point do you actually get tired?
I don't. It's, when you do something that you really enjoy doing, that you're really passionate about doing, it doesn't really feel like work. So like I have to make myself stop or walk the dog or like take a deep breath. I'm outside grounding myself. So I really, really enjoy what I do. And I have an amazing team that I've been able to build around me. So we just feed each other energy and great synergy. And I mean, I even work on Saturday and Sunday. It's easier now because you don't really have that FOMO, the fear of missing out. So it's not like you're like, oh, my friends are out hanging out, having a good time. I'm stuck at home working. It's like, well, everyone's stuck at home right now unless you're going to the grocery store. And you can only go to the grocery store so much, or the drive-through at Starbucks. So, yeah.
that's something that I've been saying this all along. It's like, what better time to actually build your dreams than right now? There's no better time. There's no other distraction. There's no other excuse. Just do it right now. And that's one thing I love about entrepreneurs. They're kind of seizing this opportunity. It's really easy to get down. And of course, you're going to go through waves. We're all going through all these different emotions right now with COVID and everything else. But if you are really passionate about something, it doesn't matter. If I wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning, if I wake up at, 3 o'clock in the morning, or if I don't sleep, I know that I'm going towards something and I'm moving the needle forward. So that's awesome. We talked a little about yesterday, and I want you to touch on this. This is something that I want everyone to see, whether you are a stock trader or a real estate investor. We were talking, Tim and I, about the importance of selecting who sits at your table, who you take advice from, who is your power team. And he has created the most incredible power team, which I am so excited to talk about. So why don't you tell us who do you have on your team and who would you recommend hiring first?
On our team?
Yeah.
Well, so inside the company, I have my chief branding officer and my chief operating officer. Those were the first two fixtures, because branding is super, super important, because otherwise you really don't stand out. You turn into a commodity, and a commodity really isn't the best way to go about it, because then you're either low price gouging, and it's not a great business to be in my opinion. So getting a really good someone on the branding side to help you develop that brand, those brand assets, the brand identity, and then getting someone that's good with, as far as a COO, someone that's really organized and good with the actual day-to-day operations of the business. And on the front end, let's face it, you're going to do everything yourself, and then just assumably delegate out as soon as you build people in there. But then next, highly, highly recommend, or even before your COO, is starting to get CMO, getting your marketing side connected, because obviously today everything's about marketing. And that was a big, big thing for us, is that we were doing things a completely different way right before the shelter in place, and we had to revamp everything for this, because we were trying to go out there and meet people face to face, and that was an amazing and most beneficial and most converting way to do things. And now we had to switch everything up completely to a Zoom call, to an email, to a call, to whatever way we could figure out, social media. And then that brings my next team member, which is my branding, it's actually my social media director. And I got really lucky because he's a good friend of mine, and he's a huge influence already. He's got like 300,000 on TikTok and 125,000 on his Instagram. And his girlfriend is another brand ambassador for us, and he's bringing in more brand ambassadors. And as we know, social media is such a big element of most businesses today. And then outside of that, I have a messaging consultant. And that messaging consultant essentially implements that whole story brand element into helping clarify our message and helping us create like a real conveyance to people, which really helps us with the marketing, helps us with all of our brand assets. So, I mean, those are really the main points and the main players. And then, of course, you have to get someone in to do sales for you as well. I'm the CEO and I'm the founder, but I'm mostly the visionary, and I come up with a lot of these brand ideas, these brand concepts, and I come in with really the overall vision and the direction that we're going and all of our goals that we're working towards. And that helps structure everyone and everyone to help work together and work towards the same thing.
What part of your real estate experience do you feel was the most effective and useful since what you're doing and building now? Is there one particular thing that you learned from real estate that's made the biggest difference to Smog Armor?
So I would say probably just that whole sales and networking element, being able to read your customer and read whoever it is that you're dealing with at that time to see how they're reacting to certain things. It's kind of the same thing in the sales that we're doing, where, we're getting a response, we're seeing a response, we're hearing their response. And that just helps us to kind of keep developing and keep improving and service them and understand what their needs really are.
Do you think that there's another wave coming? I mean, we've seen different things coming with eco entrepreneurship and going green and different services like that. What does that look like from the other side for someone who's in it? What are you seeing the future of eco-friendly investing and eco-friendly businesses?
So I don't know if Anita, has the same view. Obviously, we're on kind of separate sides of the spectrum with that. But what I'm seeing and what's in my feed and what I keep looking at and keeping a close watch on is how the cost of solar and the cost of wind, even though I don't feel like they're the best things for the environment overall, as far as the topography and laying things out and taking up all that land, it is what it is. But the price from the oil development and the oil procurement place to the actual development and to the bringing out that solar and renewable and the wind power is getting really close. So we're almost at a break-even point where technology is going to make that cost even lower. So we're going to be in a situation, and look, bottom line is there's a billion products that are made with oil, not just what you put in your car, because clearly that's not the biggest piece of the pie. And there's going to be a lot of residuals, and there's going to be a lot of products that are going to maintain that. But as the cost for these renewables get less and less, there's going to be a shift. And I see that there's going to be a shift into a sense where you're going to have actually probably higher paying jobs on an average basis per the number of jobs that are created for that. But is there going to be more jobs? I don't know. There's a lot of technology involved with that. There's a lot of drones, there's a lot of robots, there's a lot of mechanical elements of it that don't require someone's hands and feet. So I see that there's going to be a huge opportunity. I don't see oil and gas disappearing, but I see there's going to be a shift.
That's a fair statement. I don't think anybody would disagree with that.
Anita,
Yeah, I agree with that. I think as we progress and technology and new discoveries progress, that there are going to be other products that come into the scene, or proven energy sources that is already out there that just hasn't taken hold yet. Those things are going to take hold more. But I think that we just have to realize, as an economy, it has to be gradual. It can't just flip the switch overnight. There's too many things that hinge around it, including the stability of our currency.
Agreed.
This is what I love. I love when you have people that are intelligent, that can have conversations and actually try to come up with solutions and hear each other. Can we please get that in the 2020 election? I don't care what we're voting for. Can we just get someone to talk to each other? I digress. Not the point.
Can we just get that on Facebook? Oh,
Can
my
we just
God.
get on Facebook? I don't. It's so irritating. I'm like, I don't even read. People will send me things from both sides of the coin, because I don't try to get political on purpose, and I won't respond to it. But I'm like, Lord, y'all, if you put as much energy to get liking each other as much as hitting each other, we'd be fine. I digress. So, something else. So I want to ask you another question. Now, this is going to be kind of a fun one for everybody here. One of the things that Tim and I have spent many bottles of wine talking about is the value of a personal education, and when someone is the value of educating yourself, not necessarily traditional college. Tim has now been invited to speak to 2 or 3 universities, I want to say. Mm-hmm. And so what was that like? Let's talk about that, and then I'll go to the next part of this. What was it like to speak to university students about what you're doing?
So to your point about education, I did go to college, and I graduated with my graduates and my undergraduate in business and pre-law. But honestly, I feel like I wasted my time because it's nothing that I use that's applicable today. I'm not an attorney, and I don't, I'm not a doctor, so I don't need an actual licensing that requires an actual education. And with doing this company and with doing my research, I've become kind of a self-taught chemist. So I've been invited to a couple universities to talk about how I integrated entrepreneurship and chemistry, even though I have no background in chemistry. Some of my roommates at University of Wisconsin-Madison were chemists. So I said, well, I learned by osmosis, even though I didn't learn at all. And now I've taught myself, and the first time I started reading these research publications, I had 2 computers open, one to look up the words that I was reading in the other one, because it was so difficult, because there's so many words that, it's just not common to ever see them once or read about them. But what I say is, like, you really want to be a master in whatever it is you do, and it's not tough and it's not difficult. So I learned a very niche section of chemistry. And as I'm going to speak to these universities, I'm invited by the chair of the chemistry department, the chair of the science and Really to speak to the students, that undergraduates and graduates in chemistry and environmental sciences. As I'm talking to them and I'm having this great conversation, none of them understood anything that I was saying. And all of their professors were just like, because they didn't know. And it's not that, you know, their teachers weren't teaching them, but it's like, hey, you could learn a whole curriculum. I'm learning 2% of that curriculum and I'm a master at it. They know the other 98% that I don't know. And I just know that 2% really, really well, where they can't really focus on that as much because they're learning a really broad, general curriculum, which, you know, is okay to kind of dip your toe into the pool and figure out what you really might want to do. But I thought it was kind of funny because both universities, it was kind of crickets. The whole time I was asking relevant questions about reactions, about certain minerals, about certain, you know, about a lot of the stuff that I put in that makes what I'm doing work. And so that was it. It was just kind of funny that I self-taught myself in a couple of months, all of these research publications, and I really enjoyed it, but I wouldn't have learned any of that in college because it would have been so broad.
It's interesting because the value, and I think everyone here agrees, like the value of taking charge and educating yourself on something that you're passionate about is what fuels that fire. One, it's interesting, like one article will take you to another article, take you to another book, take you to a podcast, take you to a YouTube video, a TED Talk, and suddenly you're like, you, without even realizing it, you're speaking a different language and you're starting to become a different person. And that's part of the things when I talk to my kids about is you have more control than you think of the person you're going to become. And it's really what you're feeding yourself. And it's when you go to a formal education, that's something someone else has preordained that they think is what you need to know, versus you taking it and making it your own and becoming your own person. So I think that is, I love every book you've given me. I've loved, I've devoured. And they've just been fantastic. I got to reread the Story Brand, but we'll get there. Working on a little bit. So do you guys have any questions? He's a wealth of information. If you have any questions, go ahead and raise your hand and I will go ahead and unmute you. Let's see. Why can't I see it? Yes, Stephanie, go for it.
My question is, where can we find more information, like learning about your product in terms of what colors you offer, prices? Is it specifically only in a certain like market that you're in right now in terms of like location? Kind of sort of like just want to get more information on that because I'm very big on eliminating pollution and I love this idea. So it's
awesome. Yeah, 100%. We actually just relaunched our website for Earth Day, and it's under smogarmor.com. It's SMOGARMOR.com. And it'll show you an overview, all the products that we offer. And then if you want some more information, feel free to send me an email. I can send you our lab test results so you can get an idea. Formaldehyde, acetone, like all the main VOCs, which are volatile organic compounds, which are the chemicals, airborne chemicals mostly found in our home. It shows how much of those it actually reduces from your home when you're using it. And instead of it being a chemical-based paint, it's a completely water-based paint, which is crazy to me that someone would rather put chemicals in their home versus water because it's the exact same paint. But better for the environment. You don't need to actually, if you throw away a solvent chemical-based paint, you actually have to find a special place to recycle it, to throw it away, versus our paint, you can actually dump out on the lawn and it will actually help your lawn. So it's really kind of bizarre. But you can look at smogarmor.com and then feel free to send us a message with any other questions. Right now, we do have a full color palette that we're uploading. It comes by default in our white, but we can do every color and we can color match like a Sherman-Williams or a Benjamin Moore. So if you have a specific color that you want. And then next month, we're launching another paint you might be interested in, Stephanie. It's an EMF blocking paint. You guys familiar with EMFs? Like all this talk about 5G and like essentially EMFs are what your cell phone will produce, what your Wi-Fi in your home produces, what the the towers, the electric towers, everything produce these unnatural frequencies and waves that are invisible, that they kind of, there's obviously, you guys may have seen some of the news with the 5G, and they thought coronavirus was spread with 5G, which isn't true, but 5G does actually interrupt your frequency, and it can depreciate your immune system. It can weaken your immune system. So this paint, you paint it on your walls. It could be painted outside your walls, inside the drywall. If it's anywhere as a barrier between outside and inside, or in a room where you're sleeping, it will actually reduce those radio waves, and it will help you be a little more at peace. So it's we're getting our lab results on it now. I never launch before we have our actual lab results to show the efficiency of it and the effectiveness of it. But we're really excited about that one too, especially with 5G, because people are getting really concerned about that, because there is a valid issue with some of those 5G frequencies that we're going to end up seeing coming through.
Tim, when you
Yep.
have, this is Pamela, when
Hi, Pamela.
you have that ready, the EMF, I know a lot of people in the spiritual healing
Yes.
realm, and they're very big on that, and how it affects the vagus nerve and is causing so many problems.
Yep.
I'm hooked up with one of the top spiritual healers in California, and I know she's going to want to know about that.
Amazing.
So
Well,
just
yeah, it'll be definitely on our website. If you guys
okay.
on Instagram, we'll announce that as well. But you'll appreciate this, because if you're in that realm, we do use, our mineral actually has EMF, EMI blocking capabilities, but we integrate Shungite into there as well. So if you're familiar with Shungite, no? So it's
I'm not familiar with that one.
if you look it up, it's a really interesting thing. It's a 2 billion year old meteorite that hit in Russia, and there's been a lot of discoveries, and there's been a Nobel Peace Prize made about some of the discoveries within that, but it actually has these shielding, protecting capabilities. So if you look online for like EMF cell phone covers or cell phone plaques, like most of them will be Shungite.
Okay.
A little Shungite stone that you stick to your case, or you stick to your phone, or you can wear them, or you sell,
Jacob, this is worth everything.
I
I love you.
little pyramids. So
Oh
this
my
is-
gosh, really? Okay.
Yeah, Shungite stone, and this is a Shungite necklace. Like these things actually help to, and look, you know, some people, oh, it's this, it's hocus pocus.
It's hocus
snake oil.
pocus, I know. Yeah.
It's not. I have the testing equipment to show the EMF waves, and when I block it with this or with my paint or with whatever I have, it shows that it's completely blocked. So it's not hocus pocus. There's a lot of science behind it, but it's something that's relatively new, and this is considered like the new black gold. So it's really interesting. It's not cheap at all, but I mean, as people start feeling the effects and the reverberations from 5G and a lot of these other things, there's people that are really sensitive to it, like people with asthma, essentially, that are sensitive to these frequencies and these radio waves. So that's what we're all about, is innovating products to help, you know, improve people's spaces and improve the environment.
That's great.
Cool. Thank you, Pamela.
No, definitely.
I have another question.
Sure.
First off, my mom has like filled our house with like Shungite like for the last like 5 years.
Yep.
She literally, when I moved out of my house, like she like literally gave me like 4 different things to put throughout the house and my room and stuff like that. So all different shapes and things like that to be like cool and cute looking or whatever. But my question is, I have 2 questions. The first
Sure.
is for the paint that's already been launched. Is there, because you said that it'll help between 2 to 5 years before you have to like recoat. Is it the same time frame for if it's used externally for like the outside of your home?
It lasts longer for the
It
outside.
lasts longer.
Probably about 5 to 7 years for the outside.
Okay.
And now, yeah, there's a spread on it because, you know, say you use, like, I don't use any chemical cleaners. I can't. I mean, I literally choke and I can't breathe. So I don't use any chemical cleaners. I try not to, you know, use anything or bring anything into my home that off gases anything. I'm really sensitive, so I'm different. So I'm like, it's perfect for me, these things, which is why I actually am really passionate about it. But if you don't use these chemical cleaners, if you don't live next to an expressway, that could last 5 to 7 years inside and even longer outside, just based on really the durability of the paint. So it just really depends on the quality of the air in your home. I have an air monitor that monitors the VOCs, the CO2, everything in my home to show me the particulate matter that's coming through my home as well. And it beeps in the middle of the night and I'm like, oh crap. And we actually, what most people don't realize is that carbon dioxide, it's not harmful. They say it's not harmful, it's just a harmful greenhouse gas, but it actually can be really harmful for you health-wise too. If you have high levels of it, and if you have 5 people sleeping in the house, everyone's breathing all night long, your house is filled with carbon dioxide. It can make you lethargic, it can make you nauseous, it can get you dizzy, and actually it can cause some other production issues and make you lethargic. So it's nothing that's really good for you.
I think we should open up all the windows right now.
And
It's hot. Huh?
my second question was, once the your new paint launches next month, you know, is it, you have to choose one or the other, or is it like, will also that integrate the preventative of like clearing the air? Like that's just
Okay.
like,
So it'll do both, but here's the caveat. This is black, right?
yes.
Turns the paint either a shade of dark gray or black. So if you like black walls, you're good.
Got it.
But if you don't like black walls, or maybe you want a gray or a black accent wall, you know, you're good with that. But if you want it all around your house, if you put a primer over it, and we have a primer as well, and you have the other paint you can put over it also, you can get the dual effects. But yes, if you were to just use the Shungite paint, the EMF paint, it will clean the air as well, but you have to want that color.
Okay,
Like
yeah, cool.
Yeah, that's it.
So what
Is that also why you recommend, you said like if you put it like inside the wall, that way it's also for aesthetic pleasing for someone else?
Exactly. Like, I mean, it's hard to, you know, you don't necessarily open up the drywall to put it in, but if you had the opportunity to do it, sure, you know, that would work too. And you don't have to use another out coat of, you know, your exterior coat and then another coat after that. So, so yeah.
So Tim,
Well, is I used the paint to redo a donated bed frame. So I actually painted furniture with the paint. So we still get the benefits of having the Smog Armor paint in the room, even though it wasn't the entire room. It's still a part of it. So you can use the paint in other ways, just like you would anything else. So if you don't want to put it on your walls, if you don't want to put it inside or outside, use it for something else that can still give you the benefits. You can think even bigger.
right, that's what I wanted to ask you, because my previous house, we painted all the molding black because it was the house was very Oriental, yeah.
Mhm.
So, and some of the doors. Would that be enough with the EMF one, or no? You really need a whole wall?
You really want to do at least a good portion of the wall. It's like having like a, you know, it's like having a shield in front of you. Wherever that shield isn't, it can penetrate through. It goes through walls. It's, you know, it's effective. If you have a Wi-Fi in like your living room and you want to paint your bedroom so that Wi-Fi is not cutting into your room in the middle of the night, that will definitely help a lot. But you would need at least a good sized wall or a good partition of it. If you have a smart meter on the outside of your home, you definitely want to paint that wall.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, Tim, first off, I love listening to you, man. Like, it's so cool.
Thanks.
I have to say it's so interesting.
Thanks, Mom.
I wanted to ask you, with branding, how much, when you figure out what your brand is and what you want it to be, how much of yourself is constantly in that character of your brand? You know, you have 24 hours in a day. Are you staying in brand mode all 24 hours with everything you do? Or is there, like, do you create a character for yourself for that brand, for that story?
So the ideal scenario is that brand kind of coexists with who you already are, is the ideal scenario. Now, you know, obviously not every business will be able to work that way, but the ideal scenario is that it will. And I feel like now that companies are getting a little more personable and you don't have these giant conglomerates that are faceless, and most of these new companies are people. You know, you see Tesla, you see Elon Musk. Everyone knows Elon Musk, they know Tesla, they know SpaceX. Like, companies, new companies, and I think more innovative and disruptive companies are companies that have a face, and you don't want to be a fake face. You don't want to be like, okay, well, I got to remember to do this every day. So really, you want that brand to coexist with who you are, and to really amplify who Marlon Johnson is. You know, you really want to be something that you can feel and be 24 hours a day if you can. Like, our brand is all about, you know, eco-friendliness, fun, you know, good synergy, and protecting the environment and helping people out. You know, we're a benefit, like Jacob, you know, he's a 501c3. We're a benefit corporation, which most people don't know what a benefit corporation is. Anyone familiar with a benefit corporation?
Besides me.
So a benefit corporation is like a hybrid between a for-profit corporation and a nonprofit. It's a for-profit corporation with a social mission. So our social mission is to help end indoor air pollution. So every time we sell paint, we donate paint towards anti-air pollution murals, which we just did one in Wynwood, which is amazing, with a really well-known international artist. And then we paint schools and other public facilities that can't afford to paint with our paint. So really, you want to do whatever resonates with you, whatever you're all about, or whatever your team is all about together. And it's got to, you know, the underline of it has to also, you know, coexist with your company too, and with what your product is.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And
yeah.
I understand, I see why you're the visionary.
Thank you. Thank you.
So Tim is also, just talking to him, as you guys can see, he spurs a lot of, there are people that come into your life that actually will spur other thoughts and get you thinking differently and help you get more creative with things. So as just an exercise for everybody here and watching on Facebook, if you're liking, give me a thumbs up so we can actually get this thing moving. What other ways would you see we could use products like Smog Armor to improve your currently existing business? What other ways could you guys see? Go ahead. I see Marlon about to like say something and stop.
I'm sorry. I had a really awesome idea. I'm a director at a sports camp called Camp Woodward in the summertime. And this is our 50-year anniversary. We're redoing a big portion of the camp. And we have a Play Forever campaign. And we're really big on going green, on really teaching the students and the campers about sustainability. And we're redoing a major portion of our camp. And I just thought how cool it would be to incorporate the paint in some way, shape, or form.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Yeah, that would be amazing. That would be awesome. And I think that interaction with those kids is great. We actually, for the Super Bowl, we met with Roger Goodall, and we worked with the NFL and with the Boys and Girls Club, and they painted a mural with our paint together. And that experience was so uplifting and so amazing. And we actually got on the pregame show for Super Bowl. It was awesome.
Yeah, he did.
But that'd be great to work with the kids.
Yeah, I'm gonna, after this, take down your email if I can.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. It's Tim at Smog Armor. So feel free to shoot me an email anytime. TIM at Smog Armor.
And also, before I forget to mention, if anybody's looking to purchase any Smog Armor paint, what we're doing, what Tim and I have also, so again, how to use this in your business, right? My nonprofit actually is partnered with Smog Armor. So if anybody does want to purchase, they can purchase it through my nonprofit. So you're also helping house end youth homelessness as well as going green. So that's kind of what I'm wanting you guys to think about. Okay, so like you're talking about, Marlon, you can do this by going green with your company. Do you see how the more you layer on the good, more and more people want to get involved? Right? So people want to see what's going on. So with what we're going to be doing with our Amazon store, when they finally lift the ban for non-essential Amazon stores, is we are going to be selling Tim's paint through my Kids Foundation. So that's kind of a fun thing to do. So if you want to know about that, you can reach out to me. What about anybody else? Any ideas, thoughts, questions, concerns?
Before you mentioned the murals and schools and painting, Tim, I work with a nonprofit here in New York that my boyfriend's like really good friend from high school. She started it when she was 15, when they were in high school. And we like go to different schools in the area. And we kind of like kind of help the students see how they can better themselves and all this. And one of the things we did recently before schools were closed and everything like that, we actually painted a mural in one of their like classrooms that was kind of like not being utilized. And the students all did that. So it was like, oh my God, I could totally integrate this with Move, which is the nonprofit. And when we go to in schools. One of the schools we also work with is a performing arts school that they have shows for all the different performing arts academies, so they can, if they're doing the theater show, they can paint their sets with this. We can have a way of integrating this in a way that will benefit them, because again, like Jacob mentioned, like the millennials and Gen Z we're all really big on, eco-friendly. Like we're just noticing how much that is. And then secondly, because I'm also a realtor in New York, one of the things that's being pushed a lot is that you can actually add the value. What Jacob was saying is if you can prove the house is more environmentally friendly. And so something like as simple as, hey, I'm using, like, the house has been painted with an eco-friendly paint, because it's something that you don't have to see. Like, well, they can see, but they don't know that it's what's working. It adds like hidden value to a home as well. So I see that for like potential clients that are looking to just, hey, how can I spruce up my house without maybe probably breaking the bank? It could just be, hey, let's do a quick, let's paint. And sometimes that's all what some houses need is a paint job. And so why not integrate a paint that would also help add a little more value? Maybe not a lot, but enough to say, hey, there's some added benefits to the house that's going to help with your health and stuff like that too.
And it'll make them remember it too. And also, it'll clean the air for them. It's nothing like, it's like that new car smell or that new apartment smell when you freshly paint it. Like, those aren't good smells. Those are all chemicals that you're smelling. So to have something that's like that, it's definitely an add value. We, for commercial buildings specifically, if you do commercial buildings, we are working on getting qualified for a few credits for LEED certification buildings for U.S. Green Building Council buildings. So it adds values to building owners as well. If you have a building owner that has a LEED certified U.S. Green Building Council eco-friendly building, they can use this paint and actually get credits. And if it's something they need to do anyways, let's face it, everyone paints and everyone has to paint at some point. So it's certainly something that needs to be integrated. And the worst thing is I go to Home Depot and I go Lowe's and we go there to check out what they had and everything else. Like, most of their paints are chemical-based paints, and all their exterior paints, they're all chemical-based paints, and they're all high VOCs. And I'm like, hey, do you have any zero VOC or no chemical paints? And they're like, no, but it's outside, so it goes out. Whatever. I'm like, so we're just, it's outside. Like, look, we live here. We have one world that we're living in. It's not like, oh, it's going somewhere else outside. It's going to our outside, our combined, our shared outside. So it's like, these things really need to be taken into consideration. I love that, we're actually seeing the benefits of people turning down a lot of the things that they've done with a bigger carbon footprint, more transit, everything's kind of reducing, and people are seeing the Himalayas for the first time in 30, 40 years that live next to the Himalayas. And it's like, what the, you've never seen the Himalayas and you live right there, and they're seeing it for the first time this month. And it's like, wow, like, that's impactful. And, you're in Italy and you're in Venice and you see the blue water and fish and dolphins for the first time in 50 years. And it's like, that's something. We have to go with that momentum, and people are becoming more aware, which I'm super, super, super stoked about.
And that also brings me to one of the things I'm thinking about, how you can use this information for your business. Guys, right now, people are on their phones all the time, on their computers, either working or trying to find out what's going on and stay connected. If you provide something that is interesting, like this, to your database, and so many of you are newer to investing, or you're trying to pivot your current businesses, if you are able to say, hey, look at this interesting product that I found, I want to use this in my business, what do you think? Guess what? That now spawns conversation, it spreads the message, and now you're building credibility with other people when right now they're freaking out. But now you're saying, hey, listen, the world is healing. Let's take this a step further. And it doesn't happen by us just sitting on the sidelines. It comes by us doing meetings 3 days a week and trying to get this information out there and share it with people so that we build each other up and create a community that is more enlightened and wants to help and wants to share. So on this call, we have people who are stock traders, real estate agents, investors, and normal human beings that don't do any of it, right? So they're all here, they're all welcome, and they can all benefit from this knowledge. So sharing like things that you see coming down the pipeline as you guys have those eyes, it makes a huge difference. Last night, for example, and Tim, I meant to send this to you, but I thought you might be asleep since, you know, you go to bed like a grandpa.
Yeah.
So, but I found, I found this, I'm addicted to this show. Apple TV has a show right now called Home. Oh my God. It's only 6 episodes and it's amazing. But the last episode was about how they're doing 3D printing for homes. And that's how they're actually they're planning on battling homelessness around the world, which is super cool. And they just did it in Mexico. It was such a cool thing. And these 3 different companies came together and they collaborated and they made this happen. And now they can build these homes in a day down in Mexico through 3D printing. It's these things that just make you go, oh my God. And I actually reached out to them. I went on Instagram right away. I followed them and I sent the messages, hey, I want you guys to meet my friend who created this paint. Boom. And I sent it. Don't know if they're going to respond, but I'm going to keep trying. You know what I mean? Like, and now I'm building relationships the entire time. So don't just think about stuff. Share this knowledge. Go to smogarmor.com. I put the link here in the chat. Share it. If anybody wants to purchase it, let me know so we can help support the nonprofit and help support Tim. Give you guys reputations because now you're layering on the good, and keep your eyes open for such amazing, innovative products because we want to know about it. Tim is a part of 1%. What was it? The 1% or what? Talk.
It's 1% for the planet. So it's essentially an organization that checks your books every year to make sure that you're donating 1% of revenue towards one of their companies, one of their nonprofits, and all their nonprofits are all about doing social good. Carbonfund.org is one of them. And these companies that are out there actually that are being monitored and being seen as companies that are actually helping the environment, helping society, like we're donating money towards those causes. And it's just a great network of different companies to be involved with. Patagonia is part of it. Honest Tea is part of it. New Belgian Fat Tire Beer. You know, there's a lot of these great companies that are all part of it because they want to do something that's greater. And look, that's also social equity for your brands as well. You know, you want to do things that are good for people. Trust me, the better you do for other people, the better they'll do for you. And you know, it's amazing to me because, you know, obviously when you start up a business, you're not making $1 million a month or $1 million a year your first year. You know, you've got a lot of groundwork and a lot of things to do. But when you're doing something that's really good for other people, like you'll just be amazed at what comes to you. Like Jacob has some amazing opportunities come his way because what he's doing is it's bigger than him and it's helping other people and it's helping society. And it's a real big need. And people think, like the old adage of, you know, hey, companies, it's all about the bottom line and the investor and blah, 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 blah. Well, we're realizing now, and especially a lot of the big venture capital money, a lot of the big investment money is going into sustainable brands, eco-friendly brands. I got called already by Procter & Gamble contact, and they wanted to give us $10 million to take over our brand and sell it and just give us a royalty. That's a lot of money. But I didn't want to give it to someone that's going to do something like that and, you know, have that backboard. But the guy pretty much told me, he's like, look, there's a lot of these brands that are coming in today that are stealing huge pieces of the pie because you have this dinosaur company that has this huge hedge on the laundry detergent department and the soap and this and that they're not pivoting into other little small niches. And these small niches are disrupting these giant conglomerates and these big companies that are losing huge market share, even though it's being chipped away, but they're trying to go out there and acquire all of them so they don't lose their footing and they can own these brands and look, you know, good and also maintain their brand identities and then still, you know, have them as one of their parent company or have one of their partner companies. So I think there's something really, I think, you know, obviously, like as we discussed, you know, Gen Z and, you know, millennials are going to be the biggest transition of wealth from the baby boomers to them very soon. So they're going to control the market. And let's face it, like they want different things than the baby boomers want, and they have a different awareness. You know, the saddest thing that I can say I've learned and I've had the experience of going through this process of talking to people and understanding what people's wants and needs are, especially millennials, is that a lot of couples were saying, hey, you know, we were talking about having kids, and 90% of them, guys, 90% of them said they decided not to have kids because of the environment. They didn't want to bring a kid into the world that they wouldn't have a full life. And like, that's sad. Whenever have we ever discussed not having kids because we wouldn't know that they would actually live a full life, because our environment is so messed up right now that we just don't know. And there's so much disinformation, misinformation, think tanks, lobbyists, like all this nonsense going on. Like, look outside, you can see it in a lot of places. And it's honestly, there's enough evidence that we have a problem and we need to fix it. So that was something that was really impactful to me, is to hear that people weren't thinking to have kids because of the environment. Like, sad.
So have you guys thoroughly enjoyed, I told you guys were gonna love this. Have you guys enjoyed this so far? What's going on? If you're on Facebook, give me a thumbs up, because apparently that's part of the algorithm. So I'm looking that up. Yeah. So yeah, make sure you guys go and give it thumbs up so we can get Real Talk really moving. Part of the model I'm trying to do, guys, when we have these meetings Monday, Wednesday, Friday, is I'm trying to make it to where you guys have education and motivation. We have other entrepreneurs that are female and other minorities coming on and sharing their story. And then on Fridays, I really want to do disruptors and eco-friendly sustainable models. If you know anybody else who you think we should learn from, let me know. So next week, I'm going to have Whitney Chafin on talking about what she's doing with some of her social housing right now. I'm going to have Tim Sperry talking about his journey as a real estate investor and what it was like for him after he had 4 heart attacks, and he's currently in his 40s. And so he started having them in his 20s. It was kind of scary. And then I'm going to be having Friday, I'm hoping to have an interview with a solar power company coming on. I'm still working out the details there, but we are going to have a socially sustainable model then as well. So guys, share this information. Let's go ahead and keep this environment going. Let's keep everybody growing and working together. Use this knowledge to build your own brand. The book that, Tim, will you want to get that book one more time? Storybrand by
Donald Miller.
Storybrand by Donald Miller. So let's put it on our book list this week and get that working and see if we can just have those conversations. And then we will just keep growing, guys. Go out there, do your work, make it happen. People are still buying and selling houses. Make it count for you. Keep trading. Guys, we can make the world a better place together. So thank you guys so much for being here. Mwah, I love you to death, and I will see you guys Monday, 3 o'clock. Thank you, Tim, so much for being here. You're awesome.
Thanks, Jacob. Thank you, brother. You're always awesome. Appreciate it. Thank you, guys. Have a great day.
Thanks, everyone.